Texas, the biggest state in the US, home of 29 million people. Yet, what is it? Texas is one big identity, yet one big identity crisis. Is it Cowboys? Is it NASA?
Houston, we have a problem.
Is it that one embarrassing state that wants to break off from the rest of the nation? You know what? Scratch that. Let's focus on one part of Texas. More specifically, a town southeast of El Paso, contributing to 1,831 people to Texas's 29 million inhabitants, Marfa. Now, why in the world is a small town, not even 2 miles wide, 1.6 to be exact, so important? Well, for me, my entire family is from Marfa. My dad, my aunt, my grandma, and both of my great-grandparents. My great-grandpa built the house that we own in Marfa back in the 1960s. That house holds such importance to my family, and I lost count of how many times I've made the 10-hour drive there. My great-grandfather, Benjamin Gonzalez, was an important man to Marfa. He served in World War II, came back and became a commissioner of Marfa, and proceeded to own his own business, building a majority of the ranches and the houses in this small town. So, for me, this is just my great-grandparents' place. A cute, old-timey western town that's had its fun. But that's not it. It may look ordinary or out of a western film, but that's because it is, quite literally. Ever heard of the movie Giant? It's one of the most classic western films, starring Elizabeth Taylor, Rock Hudson, and James Dean himself. It was filmed in Marfa in 1956, a film that would bring this town attention for decades to come.
When people talk about change, they want you to speak in terms of better or worse, but by trying to use that, I just try and say it's different.
In 1971, the town had been infiltrated. This small western agricultural drive-thru was about to become one of the world's hotspots for artists everywhere. Donald Judd, an American minimalism artist from New York, had made his way to the desolate plains of Marfa and proceeded to buy 16 decaying buildings, an entire decommissioned army base, and 3 ranches that spread over 40,000 acres. Why? For his art, of course.
For me, primarily, it used to be an agriculture town, and everything worked around agriculture. The stores were mainly related to agriculture. It was a real small town with a local economy, and now it's transitioned from an agriculture economy to a tourism-based economy. And so the businesses that are located here, it's more tourist-related, instead of like agriculture-related. So that's, and how that looks on the streets and things has just been a change.
Judd left Marfa with his famous 15 untitled works in concrete, giant cinder blocks that span 2.5 by 5 meters along the border of one of the ranches he purchased. He focused on an emphasis of the surrounding land and how art is inextricably linked. He sought autonomy and clarity, minimalism at its finest. This inspired thousands, bringing a whole community to Marfa, an artist community that declared themselves the Shenanigans.
And even newcomers call it Shenanigans because I guess they came when Donald Judd, they heard about the artist and why they come here, I don't know.
They followed in Judd's footsteps, creating a foundation that would provide for all the other artists for decades after Judd's passing in 1994. The Shenanigans Foundation is still relevant today in modern Marfa. They host balls and exhibits for artists all around the world, giving grants to growing artists and students to pursue their dreams. The Shenanigans have brought a community that collides with the world that already existed in Marfa. Cowboys and cowgirls of Marfa, Texas, I introduce you to a millennial, aka the hipsters. It's a cute town, I can't blame you, but goodness gracious, when those hipsters set their eyes on adobe houses, Marfa's real estate said hello to the heavens.
It's changed a lot from when I was growing up. The newcomers have come to Marfa. I don't know why, but the real estate prices are really high. They see Adobe and they go crazy. The people, some of the people in Marfa, they see the big bucks and they sell, and then they're sorry that they sold. But just an old Adobe house would sell for about $400,000. And the sad part about it, that they turn it into Airbnb.
What used to be affordable houses around 100 to 200K, Adobe houses are now going for at least $500,000. Some even reaching almost $1 million. This trend started back when Donald Judd made his way to Marfa. He had purchased a building called The Block, an Adobe home that he built a 10-foot Adobe wall around. It became a statement, and thus became a fad throughout the artist community. The artist community may have rocketed the housing prices, but they're still a great addition to Marfa. They bring life and a new community to the dying town. The foundation has stated that they will use $1.25 million that they got as a grant to put towards the town and restore the buildings and businesses to what they once were.
There's three big foundations here. There's a lot of things that drive it, but Shenani's probably Shenani and Judd. There's a Shenani Foundation, the Judd Foundation, but there's also Marfa, and they each have their own clientele and tourists. But then there's a lot of people here just stay in a nice VRBO to sample some of the local restaurants, to look at the landscape. So tourism isn't specifically related to art tourism anymore, in my opinion. Now, depending on who you ask, they probably give you different answers, but it's just a nice place on the planet to visit. You got Big Bend National Park that's close to here. You've got Davis Mountain State Park. You've got McDonald's Observatory. You've got lots of things going on. Prada Marfa is very popular, and they call it Prada Marfa, even though it's on the other side of Valentine. And so there's a lot of things that bring people out here.
If you're an artist and this video also piques your interest about an artist town, I wish you luck finding a house here. But hey, I'm not your realtor, so let me show you something else cool. Every year on Labor Day weekend, the town hosts the Marfa Lights Festival. It's a wonderful event, stacked with a parade, performances, live music, artist booth, food trucks, and all-around family fun. I've gone ever since I was a kid. I even almost won a turtle one time. My most recent visit this year was fantastic as well. I saw flame dancers, I got boba, I even got traditional al pastor tacos. And yes, you did hear me right. It's a festival for lights. No, not your normal lights. I'm talking about the Marfa lights. A mysterious phenomenon that has stumped dozens of scientists and has been floating around since the early 1800s. At least that was the earliest documented. Here, it's easier if I just show you. They really are just lights. They float far in the distance, they randomly pop up, and they split off from one another. They even change color. It's complete and utter darkness out there. There are no cars, no highways in the direction that they appear. There's literally no explanation of why or how they're there. A scientific phenomenon. Are they aliens? Ghosts? Some even believe that they're angels. Now, I understand. It may be hard to believe. Heck, I even have a hard time believing it too. But I'm stumped every time I go to Marfa. They exist. I've seen them dozens of times. In fact, we're watching a clip of the lights I recorded during my most recent visit to Marfa. I tell everyone, if you get the chance to go to Marfa, go see the lights for yourself. What do you think they are? 'Cause as a scientific thinker myself, I have absolutely no idea.
Oh, did you that line? That was beautiful. There's another organization that's also making a movie on the Marfa lights.
Really?
Uh-huh. And are you on Facebook? Look, I can follow you and maybe see this documentary when sometime when.
Oh yeah, you can
She
follow
is.
me.
I don't do Facebook. Privacy things. So.
I follow a lot of the